Hello, everyone. It is Thursday, the 7th of November. Can't believe it's in November 2024. And quite a few reaction videos to get to, including Stephen Guilbeault from Canada. But before I get into that, Dan Dix from Press for Truth, who's been the independent journalist for over a decade at least. I highly recommend people take a look at his work. And I would love it if if someone like him would go on a show like Joe Rogan from Canada or Russell Brand, because he's incredible. But before I get into, again, like I was saying, Canadian politics, I want to share this video. And it's Congrats America on ending up with the lesser of evils. Here we go. You know what? I do I do poke fun sometimes about leftists or lefties losing it, but it's actually really sad also. And so there are people out there that, because of the propaganda, the psyops, and the messaging, and they're younger. They're not all younger, but like a lot of those ladies were again, they seem young, but they're listening to mainstream media, and clearly their education system as well are failing them, for them to have such an overreaction to Trump winning the presidency as opposed to Kamala Harris, right? And so there was so much misinformation and hate and division that was being spewed by leftist mainstream was with MSNBC, CNN, etc., where people were calling people garbage, trash, Nazis, racist, sexist, you name it, and still continue to do so. And but it's sad that there are people that are that upset and over these election results when the information was false, right? And so I do feel bad for that. That's why I'm really saying that people like Elon Musk, the jury's out on his assistance with the world, being part of the military-industrial complex, like a contractor, and certain occult groups that he's affiliated with. But seems that at least when he's talking on social media platforms, even Joe Rogan and on his X feed, that even communicating with Ron Paul, I'm going to get to him, but that he seems to want to do the right things, and he's and so that's interesting. But it just leave it at that for now. Sometimes I ramble too much.
This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth, and I just want to say congratulations, America, on once again ending with the lesser of evils. You've rejected left-wing statism, but then embraced the right-wing variant. I called it 6 months ago, back in May. I told us so. This BS is more choreographed. Trump has been selected already. He will win. Watch how this tweet ages. The false left-right paradigm is in full swing, and everyone's buying it. One side will say, you elected a felon. The other will say, BS, and the New World Order wins. Because let's not forget, my friends, democracy is just the means. It's an illusion of choice, and the powers that ought not be have brilliantly chosen Donald Trump, a very charismatic actor, to ultimately carry out the agendas of the deep state by becoming the hero of the people. And I know right now, the future seems to be looking marginally better, but doesn't that remain to be seen? We've seen this many times before, and here's a very good example of what I'm warning about today. In Canada, when Justin Trudeau first came on the scene, he was billed as Canada's Obama, the hope and change that you can count on. One of his big campaign promises was to legalize weed in Canada, and this got millions of Canadians supporting him, including the self-proclaimed Prince of Pot, Mark Emery, who campaigned for Trudeau based on these promises. I confronted him.
I would like to say that I have never voted for Justin Trudeau. So even through even that propaganda and those psyops campaigns that they were pushing to get him to be elected, I was all over that. On both hands. Called that too.
Emery about this, warning that this was a dangerous move and that he shouldn't be getting behind Trudeau based on these promises.
The only really important result is that we get a Liberal majority on October 19th in that regard, and would hopefully lead to legalizing marijuana or getting it out of the schedule 6 months later, and the province is regulating it, and then we'll see what we can do there.
We know these parties are known for riding in on tickets. Let's just hypothetically say if Trudeau was riding in on the we ticket, I mean, where does he stand on foreign policies? Where does he stand on military intervention? Where does he stand on a monetary reform? Are you aware of his positions on these things?
I couldn't care less. I absolutely could not. To me, this whole election is entirely a referendum on legalizing marijuana with the benefit that we get rid of Stephen Harper. I really don't care about the other views of any of the parties because they're all nuanced at best. It's all really a battle over personalities if you get beyond our one issue. But our one issue I've been working for 45 years of my life, and we have never had an opportunity like this as a voter. So we'd be absolutely stupid and derelict not to seize this opportunity to see if we can get.
How'd that work out for you? And I will say that Harper was most definitely the better of those two options, by far, and especially how he performed during like the 2008 period when so many economies were collapsing essentially under themselves worldwide. Canada did really well, and that was under Harper, so I guess he doesn't care about that. And I will say too that I have a prescription for cannabis, for marijuana, and I do have complex PTSD because of service. And it's more manageable with that. And I only started smoking pot just a few years ago, and there are benefits to it. But I don't know about completely legalizing and making available like all of these drugs that have been because it's causing such a huge problem with everyone, but especially with our youth and young men, especially with the fentanyl and the opioid crisis that's going on. Anyway, rant over.
A party that has a chance to form a majority that promises full legalization to actually see if that happens. There's never been a chance like that, and there's not likely to be one if we fuck it up.
It seems like a dangerous move to put that much into somebody like Justin Trudeau when you're not even aware what kind of foreign policies and what kind of wars of aggression he might continue. If he's going to continue, Harper has been doing the things you've been fighting against for 14 years. How do you know you're not being duped into voting for Justin Trudeau to carry on these same old things, the same old left, right, same two sides of the same bird?
Your concerns are not my concerns. I don't have any of those concerns. I am completely confident that if we got a Liberal majority, we'd see some from legalization, and that's all I care about. I do not care about the other thing. They're not going to change whether it's the NDP, Liberals, and Conservatives, for the most part. And other parties simply aren't going to have it. They don't get the economic support. They don't have the numerical support. You know, I'm playing in the real world. I want to see change in the next year. That's only going to happen if people vote for the Liberal Party. It's not going to change if they vote for the Green Party, the NDP, or the Conservatives. My goal is single-minded, as I've told you. Legalizing pot, this is the only way I can make that happen going to the polls.
How many times do these politicians have to make these promises before we start to realize that they don't carry out these promises once they get in?
You're a journalist. You're supposed to ask me the questions. What you've just done is stated an opinion which I don't agree with, nor do I want to discuss because there's something that I have no value for.
It's
you know what? And I love Dan Dix, but he's making good points with that.
It's very serious because this is leading towards
serious to you, but I've told you it doesn't bother or concern me. I don't care what they stand for. I'm comfortable being a member of the Liberal Party and advocating them for the very important reason to legalize marijuana. I'm simply not on the radar to identify any other issue. I got to run.
Thank you. All right. Take care. All right. Well, there you have it. That is Mark Emery's position on putting blind faith into Justin Trudeau, the leader of the Liberals, riding in on that weed ticket. So we'll just see if this tarnishes the Mark Emery legacy or not. Fast forward today, and you'll discover that Trudeau did legalize cannabis. But how did that turn out? Well, it turns out that he really just completely monopolized an entire industry with no free market at all. It was a total bait and switch move. And I think we're about to get something very similar under Donald Trump as president of the United States. One day before this election, I issued a warning. Warning, Ron Paul, the 2024 selection and the dollar crash that will be blamed on Trump, where you'll see that I discussed with Dr. Paul what it might actually look like if Donald Trump ended the Fed as promised. And here's the thing, folks. Have any of you considered that he may actually end the Fed as promised, but then replace it with the central bank digital currency? That's one of the goals of the global elite, and that's how they can pull it off. Or have you ever considered that his promise to control the borders might actually eventually lead to a nationwide biometric surveillance system? Check off another one for the global elite. Do you not realize that by creating the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, with Elon Musk, that by promising $2 trillion from the budget, you will all have to eventually interact with the Everything app that manages your social credit score? My friends, they've tossed out the bait. People have taken the bite, and now they're just going to start reeling it in. It's not going to happen overnight, but it most certainly will be implemented under the tiptoe to tyranny through Donald Trump. Just like how we saw the hope and change under Justin Trudeau in Canada.
He's almost finished, but I just wanted to present something that came from Elon Musk to Donald Trump. And this is verified because I was getting it on social media, but what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to look at other sources. And so I just went on Elon Musk's X feed. This is from 14 hours ago. Novus Ordo Seclorum, Latin, essentially New World Order. And here you have Donald Trump in the picture. And so this was just, in the last 14 hours, like I said, very concerning that he's talking about that. Why when they're supposed to be going against World Health Organization and WEF and Davos and those people. And yeah. He also, I just wanted to point out, declared a clean sweep of all swing states, majority of the vote, like the popular vote, and basically control the Senate, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of power there. And again, I'm saying that if I was American, because I'm not, but I would have absolutely voted for Trump during this election as well, because Kamala Harris and the people that she was supporting and getting funding from, these are people that are literal criminals, literally on the Epstein list, really part of their own friggin' list that they've created. And, and there was going to be zero accountability for these people if Harris was president. And she's weak, she's unintelligent, and she's more of a dictator. Unfortunately, she was even talking about removing filibustering from government to make sure she even more control, pass rules and laws that she wanted to pass that go against most sane people's ethics and values and morals. My goodness, there's just so much to talk about that she was pushing for and would have pushed further if elected, and then again with the wars, and clearly sharing in her speeches and stuff like that, like she has no idea what's actually going on in these places, no idea. So she would be very easily duped by the people that are already deep state within government surrounding her. If they would tell her things, she's actually going to believe it. They share things with her, she's going to believe it, and that's a little more terrifying. Trump, on his team, he does have really intelligent people. He has Tucker Carlson, Vivek Ramaswamy, Charlie Kirk, countless others. And so maybe they can shed light on a lot of the misinformation and disinformation that's been going around. RFK Jr., the possibility that he had stocks and shares in Pfizer and Bayer. A lot of people do have shares and stocks in the military pharmaceutical industrial complex because it's essentially easy money is what they call it, with no diabolical, intent there. But again, what you support and enable, it's going to keep on if there's financial benefit to it. But more of a ramble.
And now everyone hates him. including the pot activists. So on the one hand, yes, glad that our selfie-taking, feminist, politically correct drama teacher Justin Trudeau is not going to be getting the intellectual backing of Kamala Harris. But on the other hand, I know that Donald Trump is the Pied Piper chosen by the powers that ought not be, who will use him to ultimately usher in their endgame agenda. And that's why statism in general needs to be rejected, lock, stock, and barrel. My friends, if you appreciate my efforts to bring you this information, please consider checking the link below at pressfortruth.ca/donate. I can't continue to do this work without the continued support coming directly from you. So thank you so much to anybody who takes some time today to support my efforts here at
I've
Press for
donated.
Truth.
I hope you do too. Anyway, that was great. He's great. And there's a Ron Paul one from him as well that I want to share. Hey. Because I like Ron Paul. He was a lot more popular like over a decade ago. But I mean, he's in the media now because Elon Musk has endorsed him. But I'll get into that from this.
Can't be blamed for this, but in a way, even if you did the right thing, if I were in office and I vetoed everything, and cut spending, the immediate reaction would be negative. It'd be like taking somebody off drugs, a drug addict. And the reaction isn't. So we're really in a mess, and that's also the reason they're going to inflate, and the final crisis will be the rejection of the dollar, and we're not yet there.
Ron Paul is an absolute legend who has introduced more people to the ideals of freedom and liberty in the early 2000s than anybody did during the entire 20th century. His popularity in 2008 and in 2012 was because of his incredible consistency, the fact that he has always stood by his principles, and how he's never allowed himself to be bought by any special interest. For decades now, he's been proposing smaller governments. We eliminate several wasteful federal agencies. He's always promoted ending foreign wars, eliminating taxes on capital gains, eliminating the estate tax, and of course, the one that actually hacks at the root of all our problems, ending the Federal Reserve. The man is incredibly consistent and just full of integrity. I'm honored to have interviewed him a number of times and to have shared a stage with him at multiple events where I can personally attest, after spending time with him in real life, that he is the real deal, a true champion of freedom. Now, when Elon Musk recently said at a rally that he wants to cut $2 trillion from the federal budget, Ron Paul chimed in and he said, "Elon cutting $2 trillion from the budget? Great idea. Start with the biggest welfare recipients, the military-industrial complex and the pharmaceutical-industrial complex. Oh, and the Fed." To which Elon replied, "Needs to be done." Dr. Paul was then asked in a podcast if he would join the team, and he said that he would consider it. Ron Paul says he wants Elon Musk to cut government waste in second Trump administration. To which Elon Musk replied, "Would be great to have Ron Paul as part of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE." Ron Paul responded with, "I'd be happy to talk with you about it, Elon." And just like that, the memes started spreading. Like, what would you say you do here? So in this video, with just one day now remaining in the lead up to the US presidential selection, I'm going to explain to you why I'm actually rather concerned about the prospect of Dr. Paul joining Team Trump. And I think by the end of this video, you will be too. But just before we do, guys, really quickly, I'd ask that you please consider supporting my efforts at pressfortruth.ca/donate. Please take one moment today to make a contribution. You can find a link at the top of the description of this video. All right, guys, check this out. Back in 2020, about 3 months before the election, I posted this. On August 12th of 2020, I posted, "The 2020 presidential selection is underway with Kamala Harris as Soros's pick." Alex Soros congratulated Harris on her future success. In this video, Dan Dix Press for Truth digs into who Kamala Harris is, while reminding the viewers that this whole selection process will be more choreographed than a ballet, as the deep state is and has been controlling every election for over half a century. And in that video from over 4 years ago, I explained why we should be concerned about a future with Kamala Harris, and why the likes of George and Alex Soros chose her for vice and eventually president of the United States of America. And here we are now, 4 years later, and the race is allegedly tight as ever, just as it always is. So when I heard that Ron Paul may be teaming up with Donald Trump and Elon Musk on the Trump team, I gotta say, I became very concerned about this, and let me please explain why. Guys, Ron Paul is solid. He is perfect. He's exactly what is needed. I realized that way back in 2008 when he was running, and I knew that in 2012 he was running as well. He gathered so much support, and rightly so, because as I said, he's solid, he's consistent, he's absolutely perfect for the job, he's full of integrity. Which is why I also realized back then that the only thing that would make me not trust him would be if he were to win the presidency of the United States. Because you simply do not get into that position if you are a Ron Paul. Like I said, the guy is the real deal. So now here we are in the 2024 race. The Republicans want the Libertarian vote, and the Libertarians now figure that they can slip Ron in through a vote for Trump. Libertarians can put Ron Paul in the White House by voting Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, if you buy one Donald Trump for Tuesday, they are throwing in one Ron Paul on top of an Elon Musk-run Doge, Department of Government Efficiency. This is a deal of a lifetime, folks. If you're looking to write in Ron Paul, vote for Trump to make it count. Unfortunately, their minds are clouded by statism, because we're talking about Elon and Donald here. The guy who wants to put a brain chip in everybody and his biggest fan, both of whom are at the behest of the powers that ought not be. So if Trump is going to be allowed to win again, then I think they're using Paul's good name. And when push eventually comes, they'll either make sure his hands are tied, or they'll cut him off early, or God forbid, something even worse. Listen now to Ron Paul back in 2018 explaining to me what ending the Fed under Trump would actually look like, and how an engineered dollar crash could be blamed on Trump in the middle.
Look what Warren Buffett's been doing in the last several months with stocks and BRICS possibly creating their own
of an economic crisis, which could eventually lead to a civil war.
If you have something that's ready to crash, then you have a president and a Congress that does all the wrong things, then you make it worse. That certainly is what happened in Depression time. It certainly happened in 2009, when all they did was use QE to build the bubble bigger and bigger. And of course, that's the crisis that we're facing now. And even as we speak, there looks like there's some problems arising in Europe, with great weakness in Italy, and gold going up and the stock market going down. But it's still sort of under control. But eventually it'll lose control. But for me to say, well, Trump joined the neocons, he did that and that, he so far, can't be blamed for this. But in a way, even if you did the right things, if I were in office and I vetoed everything, and cut spending, the immediate reaction would be somebody off drugs, it's a drug addict. The reaction isn't good. So we're really in a mess, and that's also
my predictions was cyber attacks and bank collapses. And my prediction was by the end of the year, but that's just where I finished with my whiteboard. And but yeah, who knows? It could be within the year when Trump gets inaugurated.
So the reason they're going to inflate, and the final crisis will be the rejection of the dollar, and we're not yet there.
Well, do you see the Federal Reserve as ending the Fed as still a viable option? And if so, how could Trump go about doing something like that, or any for that matter, when it comes to ending the Federal Reserve?
Well, and I said, if I were there and I could take the key and throw it away and end the Fed, it wouldn't be the smartest thing to do. But what has to be done, and that's what I work on now, and all of us do with these liberty movements, is try to change people's mind on what the role of government ought to be, because that's the only thing that really counts, is how much freedom do we have and how much appetite do the people have for government? Do they support the wars? Do they support the welfare state? Do they support fiat money? Because as long as they do that, if you just sort of say, okay, we're going to quit printing money, and you don't have anything to replace it with, and they don't understand what liberty is all about, and they don't understand why deficits do matter, it'll probably cause a civil war.
Folks, Ron Paul gets it. If the power ought not be crashed the dollar under Trump's watch, we'll see a civil war like we've never seen before. Let's not forget that order out of chaos is their playbook, with a one world government as the eventual endgame. Be it Trump or Harris, the secret government has a plan to create a new world order, and they will use whatever they have at their disposal to get the job done. That's why we need to reject statism and become the biggest threat to the system that there is, a fully independent, sovereign human being who's capable of fending for himself without any kind of need or help from the government whatsoever. We do that, folks, and we win. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to check
Dan Dix. Oh my goodness. And yeah, definitely like another possibility of a world war, or some kind of like staged and planned fake alien invasion type situation under his tenure. All right. Stephen Guilbeault calls conservatives stupid while announcing emissions cap on the oil and gas. This guy, how is he not fired yet?
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you're having a wonderful day so far. I got a good one for you today. Our favorite Environment Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, is back and ready to announce his emissions cap that he's planning on imposing on all of us good Canadians here.
Carbon tax scam.
And especially in the oil-produced provinces, such as Alberta and Saskatchewan. So I'm not going to go on a rant early about this. I'm just going to let it run through. So if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe. And with no further ado, let's get into it.
Years ago, we launched the most comprehensive climate plan in our country's history. Every sector, every region, every measure, every investment. And our vision was simple: healthier communities, good jobs in a cleaner, stronger economy. And as Julie said, our pollution levels are down while the economy is running at full steam. Canada's oil and gas sector account for almost a third of our climate pollution, more than double combined pollution from all other heavy and light industries. And the oil and gas sector has also been experiencing record profits. Those profits have grown tenfold since the pandemic, going from $6.6 billion to $66 billion. So we're asking the oil and gas sector to invest their record profits into pollution-cutting projects, projects that can create and keep good jobs. Canadians can be proud of hundreds of thousands of oil and gas workers leading on transformative new technologies. The tools are here to cut pollution, and across the world there is a consensus on the need to transition to a cleaner future. I'm proud to introduce Canada's draft regulations to cap pollution from the oil and gas. Will help to cut pollution by 35% below 2019 levels, while providing compliance flexibility. In doing so, we will create a cap-and-trade system for the sector. It will reward low-polluting facilities and incentivize higher-polluting facilities to invest.
And safe to say, it will also destroy jobs, increase taxes, increase prices, but we're not going to talk about that. It'll all be fine. I'm sure all of these big companies would love to absorb the prices, of all this new technology they're going to go into their production.
What this means, it means no matter what happens to production, the pollution level will go down. And let me be clear, this was carefully designed through rigorous consultations. It goes after.
So from what happens later on and for future videos, I want you to remember what he said right there. No matter what happens to production, whether the production of oil and gas increases or whether it decreases because of this emissions will go down.
Pollution, not production. Close analysis on, we work closely to develop what is technically feasible for the sector, but also to keep the industry accountable to their own promise that they've committed to be carbon neutral by 2050. And it's also a form of insurance for Canadians that with this policy, we will continue moving towards the achievement of our goals. It's part of a broad suite of measures, including the Canada Growth Fund, industrial pollution pricing, strengthening methane regulations, and new investment tax credits. We look forward to engaging with provinces, Indigenous nation, labor, and other stakeholders, and we aim to finalize these regulations next year.
I guess he's never heard of e-waste or e-pollution because he's trying to push, because he's got investments and he's going to make money off of the electrical businesses that are being pushed in Canada, especially in Ontario under Doug Ford, who's also a criminal and also is going to be, again, someone that's indirectly getting a lot of money because of pushing this stuff. I'm just going to show it, like electricity pollution. You could see it, smog, whatever you want to call it, all over the world in overdeveloped areas, and also not good for us, even at a cellular level. And so just e-waste. This is from the World Health Organization. So again, take it with salt. But anyways, key facts. E-waste is one of the fastest growing waste streams in the world. In 2022, and it's way more now in the last 2 years, an estimated 62 million tons of e-waste was produced internationally. It's not a glove. Anyway, only 22.3% documented as only collected and recycled. Lead is a common substance released in the environment when e-waste is recycled, stored, or dumped using informal activities, including open burning of the e-waste. Informal e-waste recycling activities may have several adverse health effects. Children and pregnant women are particularly vulnerable. ILO and World Health Organization estimate that millions of women and child laborers working in the informal recycling sector may be at risk of hazardous e-waste exposures, even lithium mines for the batteries and all the other materials that are being utilized. Every year, millions of electrical and electronic devices are discarded as products break or become obsolete and are thrown away. Scope of the problem: it's one of the fastest growing waste streams in the world, and it absolutely impacts the water. And as before, less than a quarter of e-waste produced globally in 2022 was known to be streams between valuable and finite resources that can be reused if they are recycled appropriately. Okay, cool, do it. 10 chemicals of public health concern, including dioxins, lead, and mercury. Cool. Yeah. Scavenging, dumping on land or water bodies, landfilling along with regular waste, opening, burn, heating, acid baths, acid leaching, stripping, shredding plastic coatings, managing equipment. These activities are considered hazardous to the environment. And by the way, he's also shredding millions of trees all over Canada, but especially in suburban areas, and has been since he's been in office. And trees are needed in order to, again, filter the air and reduce the pollutant or the harmful toxins in the air that are created because of all the energy we're using is not entirely adequate, to say the least. Electricity doesn't function as strong in colder environments, and batteries, they do drain significantly faster in colder environments. As an infantry officer in extreme cold conditions, we used to have to put the batteries inside of our jackets, or in pockets that are that were layered in order to keep them warm, so that we can communicate with the outside world if there was any kind of to reach out, contact people via radio. Need those batteries to work. And even cell phones, when you're outside for a period of time, like you'll see that it's like significantly faster. Anyway, that guy's a moron, and I want to get into more interesting videos like Eric Dubé, the most diabolical person in history, and Elon Musk gets billions of dollars in his SpaceX industry, right? Like his space industry stuff, and he and Donald Trump are BFFs now, and so would Donald Trump sever that relationship if it was found out by him that the shape of the Earth is not what he thinks, and that it's a contained environment?
Letting go of long-held beliefs is a significant challenge for fans of space exploration and beloved movie franchises like Star Wars and Star Trek, especially upon discovering that the entire concept of outer space is an elaborate modern-day facade. I anticipate that the seemingly impossible assertions soon to be presented will be a bridge too far for most to venture. Although we will decisively expose and document the extent of deceit, fraud, manipulation, and duplicity orchestrated by this organization and its collaborating space agencies, many may still find it too challenging to even consider. We will evidence that NASA stands of perpetuating the most diabolical deception in history. This elaborate deception has far-reaching consequences and implications, entangling us in false cosmologies, promises of future technologies, erroneous models of our Earth's true structure, and the alluring prospect of further space exploration that continues to captivate many today. Given that taxpayers provide $72 million each day to this enigmatic federal agency, we might naturally begin to wonder, what has NASA really brought us? Have you ever think about that? The gravity of the situation will deepen further when we realize we are channeling our taxpayer resources into an organization perpetrating a deception of staggering proportions from its inception up to present. We inadvertently fund it, albeit coaxed in wholeheartedly endorsing what is portrayed as a valiant exploration of the unknown. Since its inception, NASA has effectively dominated the entire narrative surrounding cosmology and our understanding of Earth and its structure. With ever-advancing technology, the agency has continued to further refine its methods to deceptively seduce the world at large. If there are any governmental bodies today that should be thoroughly investigated, audited, and held accountable for crimes against humanity, it must certainly be NASA and its international counterpart space agencies and affiliates. The upcoming revelations of fraud and deception will be difficult for most to acknowledge and cope with. Yet overcoming these obstacles is essential for navigating further through the deceitful maze to reach new levels of truth and enlightenment. This self-protecting conspiracy has captivated the worldwide population from inception to present day. This elaborate modern-day deception will be one of the most challenging endeavors imaginable for many when faced with the following revelations. This exploration, diverging entirely from the established account of our universe that we believe we currently understand today. These express what I soon anticipate from most who continue ahead with these uncomfortable assertions. I offer my deepest apologies to those who staunchly support NASA and believe in its declared mission in space exploration. This extends to the established modern-day narratives of cosmology and a completely false structure of our Earth, which we have come to accept through NASA and collaborating space agencies worldwide. The information that follows will sharply challenge the core beliefs you have long held since childhood. It was only in the modern era, following the advent of NASA and the commencement of space exploration through rocketry, that the heliocentric model of our solar system was universally acknowledged as a scientific truth. This acceptance dominated the timeless contention of the geocentric model, which had been the prevailing view across a diverse range of ancient societies, including the Sumerians, Egyptians, Babylonians, Hebrews, Greeks, Indians, Chinese, Mayans, Celts, Polynesians, Aztecs, Inca, scholars of the Islamic Golden Age, and medieval Europeans. The geocentric model is an astronomical concept that positions the Earth at the center of the universe. According to this model, all celestial bodies, including the Sun, Moon, planets, and stars, revolve around and over the Earth. Geocentric view asserts that the Earth is a fixed, immobile point in the universe, and that the apparent daily movements of the sky and celestial bodies is the rotation of the heavens around the Earth, rather than the Earth's rotation around its axis, as posited in the heliocentric model of today. The heliocentric model, an astronomical theory developed in the 16th century by Nicholas Copernicus, positions the Sun as the center of the solar system, with Earth orbiting around it. This theory was further popularized by astronomers like Johannes Kepler and Galileo Galilei. It provided explanations for phenomena such as the apparent retrograde motion of planets and their varying brightness and speed in the night sky. This shift to a sun-centered model marked a significant transformation in scientific thought and laid the groundwork for modern astronomy as it is taught today. Abandoning the heliocentric model is essential to escaping the maze of misconceptions that have been deeply ingrained into our core educational framework from the beginning. Let us reflect again on the urgent push to endow with heliocentricity the definitive truth, aimed at overshowing any revelations that might leak over time from the discoveries in Antarctica. Had they been disclosed as discovered, these findings would have swiftly ended any contention in the geocentric model and the widely accepted heliocentric model of today. The motive to obscure discoveries in Antarctica contributed to the creation of NASA and the subsequent emphasis on space exploration. This push was primarily aimed at reinforcing belief in the heliocentric model and the concept of an infinite cosmos, thereby supporting the Big Bang Theory and the idea of an ever-expanding universe. This initiative has significantly diminished the geocentric view of our universe, which is regarded as outdated and archaic by most today. The greatest deception of our time has been the conjuring of infinite space, said to extend indefinitely all around us, and a model of cosmology that starkly differs from our true reality. This false depiction serves to obscure the evidence of an originating event central to our existence and shaping an accurate understanding of our true world. NASA has officially segmented the heavens with the following definitions. Low Earth orbit purportedly ranges from 100 to 1,200 miles up. Medium Earth orbit is said to lie between 1,200 and 22,236 miles, and high orbit allegedly begins at 22,236 miles. These alleged altitudes entirely exaggerated and reveal the true boundaries of our enclosed world. The establishment of NASA could be seen as the cornerstone of a false narrative, a saga in which rockets serve as mere props on a stage, appearing to explore an infinite expanse. Upon closer look, reveals itself to be an expertly designed backdrop. Discovering that our world is a tightly enclosed system, indicative of deliberate creation, would send shockwaves through our collective understanding across the world. The concept of outer space, popularized since the mid-20th century, should be seen as a carefully crafted story, a fictional construct designed to shape a false and deceptive. In this narrative, NASA and its international counterparts serve as the guardians and stewards of space exploration fantasy, meticulously cultivating a deceptive narrative and agenda. Their purported framework, widely accepted and rarely questioned, has become the dominant narrative, effectively overshadowing any alternative interpretations that offer a vastly different view of Earth and cosmology. As defined by NASA, outer space refers to the vast expanse of the universe that lies beyond Earth's atmosphere and extends past low, medium, and high Earth orbit. It is a far distant region characterized by a vacuum, very little matter matter and negligible gravitational attractions. The term implies a deep space characteristic of the cosmic void, far removed from Earth. We will scrutinize the domain of outer space, which space agencies claim to have explored and continue to investigate, an expanse claimed to have no known boundaries, reinforcing the existence of infinite space extending in all directions around us. We must critically examine and reject the many layers of misinformation that have justified allocating such an immense taxpayer budget to NASA. We have been led to believe that this funding is advancing the cause of space exploration. We should thoroughly investigate whether NASA represents a practical use of taxpayer dollars, or if it amounts to an excessive and opaque expenditure with unclear returns, and quite evidently founded on fraud from its inception. We must recognize that no space agency has ever traveled beyond low Earth orbit, nor have they ever achieved farcical landings on the Moon or the planet Mars, contrary to the myriad of fake images and videos provided to mislead the world. Once thoroughly examined, these very pieces of visual media clearly reveal their deceptive clues in themselves. Media fakery that is apparent even to the less discerning eyes of children. The seemingly endless array of retractions, contradictions, and inconsistencies involved in NASA will quickly become apparent. Comprehensive examination of NASA's core credibility is crucial, as it clearly reveals the agency's expertise in crafting illusions and deceptions. This is all part of an effort to promote a completely fictitious cosmology, and even more alarmingly, to obscure the true structure of the Earth. Our journey will lead to the troubling acceptance of harsh realities and truths, provided we can endure the unsettling information that follows. We can either reject the notion of a deception so vast it defies imagination or any glimpse of plausibility, or we can courageously the disconcerting revelation of the countless illusions and fraud that have entangled us in our misled view of Earth and cosmology. I fully understand how challenging it is to step outside of one's comfort zone, as I have personally navigated the difficult journey to see beyond this grand deception, requiring many months to reconcile and accept the staggering psyop we have been enmeshed in from birth. In pursuit of truth, we will embark on an enlightening journey to uncover the deceptions that have long ensnared us. This path reveals a startlingly different yet far more accurate view of Earth and cosmology, one shaped by divine intelligence.
That was great. One last video because I do have to have a meeting. 11. Is this going to load? But it's because we're talking about the climate and scams and all these different emissions that are harmful to us. I've talked about 5G and radiation and these like cell towers and towers causing cancers and on a cellular level, on a biological level, causing harm and penetrating the blood-brain barrier, which is interesting. Connect from Canada on my VPN.
Redacted when you sign up using these
things. So this headline caught my eye over the weekend because, of course, we all have cell phones. We want to believe that it's harmless to our health. The headline, mobile phones not linked to brain cancer, biggest study ever finds. Well, let's talk about how big this study is. They made it seem like, yes, cell phones are safe. We know this. It's a done deal. We'll see the confidence with which The Guardian is reporting this. It says they found no overall association between mobile phone use and cancer, no association with prolonged use, no association with the amount of mobile phone use. This scientist says, I'm quite confident in our conclusions. We're done here. Now, whenever a doctor or a scientist is that confident, my spidey sense goes off, because scientists should acknowledge their limitations and say, well, there's room for progress. This is what the studies show. This sort of like, this is it, done, look away.
Right.
Is what makes me very nervous. So let's look at the study for ourselves, shall we? Now, first of all, we notice where it came from. The Australian government, low on my list, trustworthy entities, paid for by the WHO, which I could say is last on my list of entities I trust. I trust the IRS more than the WHO.
Whoa.
If I'm really like making a list of who's at the bottom, I trust the least. It's Thai, the CDC, the HRC, the FDA, WHO. Yeah, they're getting an F in my book of trustworthiness. But okay, let's focus though on the Australian government entity that did this study. They're called the Australian Radiation Protection and Nuclear Safety Agency. That sounds to me like an agency that's pretty motivated to conclude that radiation is safe. But let's see how they came to this rock solid conclusion. Here's what they did. They took 5,000 studies published between 1994 and 2022. None of those were long-term studies. Their time block with which they were choosing studies was long-term. You see the difference there? It's not like they took people and studied them from 1994 to 2022. It's that's the time with which they were choosing studies to qualify. They say that they took 5,000 studies between those years, but they only included 63 in their final analysis. So I'm so confused why they would even tell us that there are 5,000 studies when they're only going to connect with 63.
They choose the best 63.
And then, well, yes,
Yeah.
the selection bias is obvious there, but look at what they say here. They're saying, again, out of 5,000 studies, they're only studying 1.26% of all studies about cell phones and brain cancer. In other words, they just weeded out almost 99% of all research on the matter. They took the ones they wanted to, and they concluded that cell phone in academic setting, you're going to get an F on it, but they think this is fine. This is as good as any science we got on COVID, so I guess it's on brand for how sloppy the WHO is in their studies. Here's a list of studies that were presumably excluded. This list is hosted by the Children's Defense Fund, which is the organization. As you can see, there are copious in cancer and radiation exposure, but the WHO is choosing not to look at these. Now, the list is so long that I had to run through them in this screen grab, but you can pause any of them.
I know, I'm looking here. I see cancer. I see nervous system problems. I see brain tumor, acoustic neural. I'm seeing all sorts of red flags just scrolling with my eyes.
And if you keep looking, the WHO even has their own research on this, which they chose to exclude.
Sperm problems.
Right. But they're saying, okay, no, but we chose no association. 63 of them, in fact, 5,000.
I was going to say, because you're looking at those studies, but those weren't included in the conclusion because they didn't support the conclusion. That's how science works. You get rid of all the data that does not support your conclusion. Bam. That's
and
right.
make your
This
conclusion.
is the new science. This is the new science.
No, it's not science. It's shit science. And the Guardian just went for it. Now, here's something else that the media is not telling us when they are presenting this study is that the WHO study only addresses 1G and 2G. Who's using that any longer? And they acknowledge that 5G and 4G that we have now has higher radiation rates. So how can we apply this to current real world? Cannot. Here they're saying it's worth noting that 1G and 2G users, and so there's a limitation with the current exposure that we have right now. So can we apply these results to 5G networks? We cannot.
1G? Who's using 1G?
Media.
2007?
And yet the Guardian article that I showed you and any other mainstream article is saying, look, they studied this. We know there's no association between cancer and mobile phones networks. We know it based on 1G and 2G. And 1% of the available studies out there. That's how we know this. So, okay, they're safe. Well, that's not what this town in Massachusetts is alleging. This town says that a Verizon tower went up in 2020 and they all started to get sick and have been getting sick ever since. So they sued to get the tower removed. The judge here did not rule that they're not getting sick. What he ruled is that he doesn't have the authority to get the tower removed because that authority lies with the FCC. The FCC, however, has no method for these. In fact, they put up towers whenever and wherever they want, even though a court of appeal in 2021 told the FCC that it needed to provide a better explanation for why its current limits for radiation, which were set in 1996, adequately protect adults and children and the environment from harm. And they have not, and they will not. They're allowed to just ignore this. So a judge has asked the FCC, how do you decide what towers go up where? How do you decide what is a safe radiation limit for these towns and cities? And they can ignore it. They're allowed to, and they won't. And so these residents say, well, we can't go to the FCC. The FCC is ignoring us and they won't take this tower down. So what these residents say, I mean, it's too late for them is what they're saying. They're getting sick and it's there. But they say that if a tower like this is even proposed in your area, you better have recourse for getting it taken down. The courts are saying it's out of our hands, and the FCC is saying F you. So they can't do anything. Here's what Miriam Enkelfels Garcia, the director of the Children's Health Defense that was litigating this, says the permitting process, when there's still power, you fight. You show up to the town hall and you scream like mad because once the tower is up, getting relief is.
I mean, screaming's not really going to help anything. So I would definitely go to your individual or municipal, what do you want to call it, town hall, and discuss it.
Almost impossible. She says, while the CHD will keep fighting on behalf of individuals and communities, we need to increase the political pressure and advocate for legislative change. So am I saying that that 5G and the cell phone radiation towers and the cell phone networks and your phone itself causes cancer? I'm not. What I'm saying is there is a lot of research that points to that association. And now we have a totally shit WHO study with the worst science I've ever seen saying that it doesn't. So why would the WHO fund research to lead to this sloppy and clearly preordained conclusion? I leave that to you.
This want.
Clayton.
This is exactly what they want.
We have a joke in our house that, like, I'll present this about globalists and Clayton will go, this is what they want. And I'm like, who's they?
Well, you have Bill Gates, the largest funder of the World Health Organization, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, funding the WHO and doing point to cancer and tumors. Of course, they, anyway, we can go down this rabbit hole.
Well, there are clearly some people who want you to believe that there is no association and the science is in based on networks we know. The big question, I opted not to answer that. I'm just going to leave it there. What I'm telling you right now is that this is terrible science. It does not prove anything. It disproves, it ignores a lot. Government is making it such that they will not fix it.
Well, you guys let us know in the comments what you guys think about this. Today is our 9/11 special.
Yeah, I've talked about 9/11 multiple times. Don 189 on Rumble, and I did want to share some people to look out for that are probably going to be significant in American politics. Already are, but in the near future. And I'm not sure if everyone knows about him. This is Jared Polis from Colorado, and he will be until 2027. He is a millionaire, and he's also someone that's allegedly funded the marketing and the advertisement campaigns for the Democratic Party. He and his husband, Marlon Rice, have been. Oh, I gotta go back. Anyway. First gentleman of Colorado. He's a writer, Marlon Rice. I'll actually switch over to that page now. All very interesting. As first gentleman, he has focused on animal rights and welfare, environmental and civil rights, and LGBT rights. In addition to being first gentleman, Rice is a writer and has published his works in USA Today, CNN, and the Washington Post. So again, very leftist, woke people with a lot of influence within American politics, and has for many years. And again, multi-millionaire. And yep. I'll say about that. Anyway, I do have to go. So on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.